city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today with Ezra Parter, Evan Liu, and Jackie K, and I believe we will be joined by Brennan Vogt here on the Mile High Hockey Lab. We are so excited to have everyone who has joined us so far. And if you're with us now, please share the broadcast with your fellow Avalanche fans. Head on over to the website, milehighhockey.com, and enjoy all the written content we have over there. And of course, give all four of us and soon to be five of us a follow on your preferred social media platform. I'm pretty sure we're all on all of them at this point. So it's good to have you folks. We have lots to talk about today, starting with Erik Johnson's 1,000th career game, which is awesome. Congrats, EJ. We will get into the goalkeeping situation here in Colorado as if we haven't done that already this season. And we will talk about the Avs victory over the Philadelphia Flyers, a narrow victory at that. And we will get into next week's matchups with the Avs versus Caps, Avs versus Panthers, and Avs versus Lightning. And last but not least, we will check in on the rest of the NHL and its news, and we will hash out our bold predictions. And today, I have a fun thing about today's bold predictions is we did get a season-long ding. So we're going to get a new ding today that no one has heard for that hard-earned season-long bold prediction. But before we get there, Evan, let's start with last night. Like I mentioned in the build-up, EJ's 1,000th game, but we also got like a pseudo hat trick from Cale Makar where he scored 3 goals, but only 2 of them counted, and a pretty good performance from Annunen, sparing maybe 1 goal in that third period. What are your major takeaways other than really that?
I mean, the game itself, if you exclude the last 5 minutes of it, was a pretty good game, I would say, for the Avalanche. Of course, the celebration with Erik Johnson beforehand, Landy being out there with him to give him the artwork and the trip to Napa Valley, California. He loves his wine.
Right.
So that'll be nice. That was good that they were all together, that the Avalanche were there to sort of celebrate all of this. So aside from that, I mean, the Avs were fine. Of course, as you said, Cale Makar scored a hat trick, put that in quotations, and was the one kind of really leading the line, I guess you could say, all night long, really.
Yeah.
It was his plays on the blue line, his plays, help drive things forward. But then even on defense, like he snapped his stick like on the power play, leading to a 2-on-1, which is basically a 2-on-0.5 because he doesn't have his stick, and he did a brilliant job defending it. Just with his sliding body. So really exceptional night for Cale Makar, who I think kind of led the Avalanche all night, especially in what was not a great last 5 minutes. But 2 points is 2 points. They all count the same, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and honestly, you're right. It felt like the Avs were going to get a shutout, and this goes to show how quickly things changed. I mean, Philly scored 2 goals, and I think it was like a minute and 40-some seconds. So it was in the window where I went and changed my son's diaper and came back, and the Avs had given up 2 goals. So it was like up until that point, really, the Avs were in control. Especially, we saw them really come out in control, and I was sort of concerned, one, with the referee who was clearly injured, but also with how that would affect Colorado's start. It seemed like everything kind of kept going after that. And it does sound like that referee is going to be all right, which is great to hear. On a really weird collision with Manson, it looked like neither of them even saw each other, and it just kind of happened that way. But nonetheless, I was kind of worried about how that would shock the system in terms of the momentum in the game. And it seemed like the Avalanche were still able to kind of keep the ball rolling and stay on the front foot. Jackie, Evan mentions that Cale Makar kind of drove the bus yesterday, and that kind of had led me down a rabbit hole. I started looking at some of the metrics on Money Puck that could maybe speak to that. And the thing that really jumped out to me of all the stats is that of low danger chances, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and Mikko Rantanen all lead the team with scoring on low danger chances. What do you think that comes from? Is that just shooting ability, or is it also like a vision thing?
It's hard to say on a particular statistic like that I haven't been looking up, so I don't know that I can really comment on that exactly. But I
guess I just mean what leads to a good metric in this statistic typically.
I do think that they need more high danger, so I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
So these are all goals, though. So this isn't like high danger shots. These are high danger, low danger, medium danger goals. And I know what you mean. Like they need more sure goals. But I guess I'm asking, like, how does a player get high, like score a lot of low danger goals? Is that like typically shooting talent or seeing the game in a different way?
It's just so hard. It's not something that I've looked up, so I can't put my finger on exactly what that means. I mean, obviously they do have shooting talent, but like I said, there's just like no context, so I'm not going to make something up.
Well, here, I'll say this, just because you mentioned like the high danger chances and whatnot. There were 3 or 4, shots that MacKinnon passed up and tried to find the perfect pass or the perfect play to someone else. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, I saw, someone even in the replies, was like, this stat could be true and relevant for like the last 6 years. And like, yeah, you're not wrong, because this happens from time to time, Mm-hmm. And so maybe you have these high danger, opportunities, but then pass it off for something lower, and while sure, it's great that you're maybe converting on those lower danger chances, I guess you could say, like Jackie said, you definitely want some of those higher danger ones to be more effective and more relevant and prevalent, mm-hmm. of course, than the low danger ones for sure. But I mean, you're 9-8. You're kind of hovering right there around 500. You're doing what you need to be doing. Could you be better? Sure, of course. And given the circumstances, I think the Avs are in a pretty good spot right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely still need to put it all together. And there's still some time to do that, luckily, of course, but still got to put it all together.
And I'll jump in too. I think something, like Jackie, I haven't looked at this stat, so I am making something up, but something in the Avalanche system that I think makes this make sense to me is they are looking for Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon to take a lot of shots from out high at even strength, specifically in the middle of the ice. And both those guys are very good at getting shots through. Mm-hmm. And when shots get through that a goalie can't see, that's going to lead to low danger goals. So I think that probably explains it, but yeah.
Sometimes I give these questions in hopes that you go somewhere with them. And that's definitely where I was kind of hoping we'd go, because I think that is what explains the stat, is that those three guys in particular, the system in terms of, especially on the power play, is set up for them to shoot, and sometimes from places that would technically be considered low danger, but that really aren't given the context. And I guess maybe that's the context you're missing, Jackie. But since you kind of didn't have what you needed for that question, how about this one? EJ plays 1,000 games, and he's the first overall pick. And early on in his career, a lot of people kind of dubbed him a bust. What can we learn from Eric Johnson's career arc as it pertains to being a first overall pick?
Well, I definitely have thoughts on this one. I think it's silly to label players as busts, especially regular NHL players. Like, that's the point of the draft, is to get NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's silly when it's like, well, he has a career, but it's not good enough. I don't know.
Right.
I just think that's just way too dismissive. Now, when you're talking about first overall, is there a certain set of like a vision of what the guy's career is going to be, expectations? Sure, but it's really hard to say, to quantify this guy didn't meet those expectations or not. So I think it does prove that maybe a guy that gets written off a little bit isn't one of the stars of the decade, but still reaches that milestone. I do think it's an important milestone. Like, you have to play a long time to hit 1,000 games.
Yep.
So I think it does redeem him a little bit, even though that's going to continue happening, that guys are labeled busts and whatnot. For, I think situation matters so much because these are human beings. Like, it's just so, like I said, dismissive to say a guy's career just isn't good enough according to you. So I think there should be way more context when you talk about something like that. So good for EJ, of course.
Yeah, I think that is the lesson to be learned, is like that these guys don't all fit the same criteria from the beginning. And so their story and how the arc of their career is going to go is never going to be the same either. And to expect every first overall pick to be a generational talent is just pie in the sky thinking. So I think that like that lesson can be applied to the lottery too. Like, if you're a fan and you're thinking to yourself, well, the lottery sucks because I'm going to be the worst team in the league, but I'm not going to get the best player. Well, you don't always pick the best player with the first overall pick. So take solace in that. Look at Cale Makar, for instance. I think he's probably the best player in that draft, and well, the Avalanche got him not at first overall. So that worked out. And all I'm saying is, when we get to 1,000 episodes, I'm going to send you guys all mini silver sticks, because how cool was that silver stick? Oh my gosh. So cool. I want one. I want to hang it, but I don't deserve the NHL sized one, because, you know, that's for them. I'm going to send you little ones, like for our kids to play with and stuff like that. But,
so this means we're doing shows daily now. Look out for my
exactly.
We got a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, Ezra, I'll pick on you last. And okay. I think we'll probably open this one up to the floor anyway, because it's probably the most pertinent topic right now for the Avalanche. We hear in the middle of the night, I think it was the middle of the night or early morning, that Alexander Georgiev is now on the injured reserve. So, of course, Avs Nation begins to panic slightly and wonder, what in the world will we do in net? That is actually why I titled this show Nightmare in Net. I did it before last night. Last night, still not enough for me to feel like the Avs have what they need in net going forward. Heck, we didn't even think they had what they needed going forward when Georgiev was on the roster and playing. So, do you see a viable option on the market, or are the Avs going to be forced to sleep in the bed that they've made?
Well, that's the idea of Avs fans freaking out about Alexander Georgiev being out after the season he's had is hilarious to me. I mean, him being out might be a blessing in disguise. Who knows? Like, Anderton needs the net if he's going to develop, and he showed that he can do something good for a stretch of time in this game. He was great through 2 periods, and like that Ottawa game a couple weeks ago, the 3rd period, he just looked shaky, and it's like when he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, he takes the foot off the, like he takes his focus lapses or something. I don't know. I was going to say takes the foot off the gas, but that's not really, you shouldn't be going pedal to the metal as a goalie. You should be steady and calm. So that's a bad analogy. But as far as bringing in somebody from the outside, I think Detroit's continued struggles bring us a good opportunity to maybe look at an Alex Lyon. somebody who has a history of being a regular season savior for a team, with the Florida Panthers. I don't love him as an option, but it is somebody like him that's going to be available. Somebody who, is in a goalie trio or a goalie tandem where he's not the guy of the future, but he's the guy of the present who's capable. There aren't a whole lot out there, to be honest. The Avs, I was thinking about this with Trent Miner the other day. If Trent Miner became our Jordan Binnington without, the throwing water bottle shenanigans, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Like he's obviously not the same player. He's been in the minors for much less time than Binnington, and nobody really wants a Binnington on their team, let's be honest. But if the savior could come in from the inside of the organization, that might be better than finding somebody on the outside, because a goalie trade is just such a gamble. You don't see a lot of in-season goalie trades work.
Yeah, so, I agree with that. And Brennan, I saw you make big eyes, and I have two questions. Why did you make that face when Ezra said Trent Miner's going to be the next Binnington for the Avalanche?
I hate Binnington. I hate Binnington. I don't like Binnington.
My second question is, what is on your head?
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday, Brennan.
Happy birthday.
Oh, well, now I got to go get it. You're 40? Oh,
yeah.
Man. Now I got to go get it.
One.
We got to get.
I'm just going to say happy birthday, and I'm not going to poke the bear. I'll say that.
Oh.
But hey, I like the sweater, so go Rams.
But I think Jackie's the only one that's probably my age here, anyways. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting there. Every year. It's like time just keeps going and never stops. But Brennan, happy birthday to you, my friend. Now,
welcome to the club.
Yes,
yeah, right.
To the 40 club. Well, finish your thoughts on the goalie situation and Trent Miner and why you hate Binnington.
Okay, well, Binnington is someone that, it doesn't matter the team. He is always poking the bear, is the best way to put it. He's done it with Dubnyk. He's done it with Kadri. He's done it with multiple other players where Jackie can attest to this, but I've never seen Miner do it. Maybe once as a Grizzly, but I've never seen Miner do that. And then talking to Miner, he doesn't have that attitude that like, hey, I'm the best in the world and I need to be the best in the world and things like that. It's just he's very, 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 very extremely humble. I talked to him the other night and about his game in the NHL, and he was just like, yeah, it was okay. I'm like, dude, you played really well. You played great. You need to take the compliment. Come on.
It's funny. The thing I noticed, because I was lucky enough to be there that night, and the thing I noticed, and goalies, when the action is away from them, they all do different things. And when the whistle goes, they all do these different little ticks. Well, Miner, when the puck's away on the other end, he just sticks his glove up on the net and he just straight posts it. Like he's sitting at a bar waiting for his next beer. And then when the whistle goes, most guys often pick a corner, right? They'll go to the corner and they'll skate back to the net and kind of get reset. Not Miner. Miner just right back to the same spot. I will say this, it showed that he was kind of calm, cool, and collected in that moment. And although maybe not the Binnington story, it's good to know that, okay, who knows, Mendelise maybe has a little bit in him. Trent Miner has a little bit in him. Annunen is obviously going to get his time now. He has really no choice. Jackie, what are your thoughts on kind of what the goalie situation is going to leave for the Avs?
Well, first of all, not too concerned about Georgiev on IR. Okay. We'll see how the rest of this week unfolds, but I believe it for the time being that it's something insignificant that's wrong with him. So I wouldn't even be surprised if he starts in Washington. So
really?
We'll see. Yeah.
It was a retroactive IR placement, right? Okay. So he's available already. Yeah.
And he'll be available tomorrow.
Yeah, and he did skate after morning skate yesterday in Philly. So
I kind of wonder if it was a concussion, but it kind of seems to fit sort of the timeline / handling of it.
That does seem about right, Jackie.
But so overall, I was thrilled to see Miner get in the net. I'm a little perplexed why he wasn't called to come on the road trip. I thought he did fine. I mean, if you're expecting perfection from a guy thrown in for his first NHL start, like he did pretty good and let in one. I thought there were a couple flurries that he shut down. So I hope that he's the actual third and not Mandalise, but we'll see. Yeah. I've been saying that all year. They don't really have a third. Like, it is kind of hilarious that they finally let go of Kakinen and then immediately they have an actual need for another goaltender. Mm-hmm. Pretty funny how that works out. I've just always felt like something was missing. Like 4 is not enough. If you take Georgiev obviously as the top of the heap, or maybe not obviously for some people, but for me, he's still the starter. He's their number one. There isn't a whole lot of experience after him, which is one reason why they really can't move on from him, because they just have all unproven goalies, really. So I'm sure they'd like to get the successor, but like Ezra said, you can't really trade for that in season. It's really hard to get a team that's already giving up on their goaltending situation. The other thing is, if the Avs are going to bring in a goaltender, I would think Georgiev has to go the other way just to make the money work out.
Yeah.
That's another issue. So it's going to have to be somebody that they're extremely comfortable with in order to move Georgiev. I'm sure they'd love to find that solution, but they might just have to live with what they have for the time being.
Yeah, and I do think that, especially now that you guys have informed me about the retroactive injured reserve, is that new? Or like, I feel like that. I feel like I haven't seen that as common as we have this year. Maybe it's just because so many guys are hurt.
Teams use IR a lot to manipulate the roster. I think the Avs don't do it as much because a lot of times they don't carry a full roster, so it doesn't matter as much to them on the kind of the day-to-day, and they also hate placing guys on IR. So for the Avs to do it is a little bit more like, oh, okay, this is something they've been forced to do. But with them insisting on keeping Shillington and Ludwig, they have a larger roster than they normally would, and so they're kind of forced to use IR more than they would at this point.
That makes sense. Well, I guess I'll just open it up to the floor. Does everyone kind of agree with that? Evan, what you got for me?
Well, I was just going to say, just touching on this goaltending, situation, because I feel like that's just kind of been the talk of the town all season, really, right? I will say it is definitely a shame that Georgiev, like, he finally started to kind of get himself into form, was looking pretty good. Kind of looking like himself again, at least a little bit to an extent before the injury. So that's killer, of course. And in terms of like the entire situation, I think they've kind of made their bed. I'm not going to lie. I don't really know what else. I don't know how you could really, I guess, for lack of a better term, fix it. I will say I was definitely surprised to see Minor come in against the Caps last week. I definitely thought, we heard that Georgiev was injured. Definitely thought that, it's just going to kind of be hold on and survive with Annunen. And then he gives up 3-on-6, 3 goals on 6 shots, and
quick lead.
That was a very short pace, and I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, oh, Minor's coming. Oh, okay then. I was not ready for that at all. But yeah, you've kind of made your bed. You're rolling with Georgiev. You're rolling with Annunen. The Avs are used to kind of doing this, where they have, a cheaper goaltender. They kind of do what they can, and they hope that the rest of the team can pick them up. It worked in 2022 with Darcy Kemper, of course, and you could argue that it hasn't since then, I guess, because you haven't won a Stanley Cup with Georgiev or Annunen. So, I mean, this is very much a long shot that if the Avs do anything in net, because you have to think about it too. Georgiev's on an expiring contract. Annunen only has 1 year after that, and even he's still unproven right now. If you're going to make a move for a goaltender, you're going to want one with term. You're going to want one with term and is already signed and all that sort of stuff. And that probably means moving someone like a Manson, like a Gerard. You could argue
a contract.
Yeah, you could argue a Rantanen if you want to go big and go get someone like Shesterkin or something, but like there's no way that's happening. Yeah, there's like no way that's happening at all. At least the Rantanen part. The Anthony Girard part, who knows? That feels at least a little more likely than the Rantanen thing, but even then I don't see that happening either.
Well, it's like the way you lay it out, it's like the Avs don't get better by doing anything other than getting very, very lucky and fleecing a team, which just simply isn't going to happen. You can't, and even then you have to send a contract because you have to fit him into the cap. So it's really, I think the whole sleeping in the bed you made line works perfectly in this situation. You know, what's funny is at the game when Miner came out, it finally just hit me. I was like, wait, Georgiev is 40, Miner's 50, and Anunin is 60. All goalie groups should do that because in the stands for the first 2 periods, everyone was like, God, Georgiev is sucking it up again tonight. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's actually Anunin down there. And now, so everybody in the building just thinks Georgiev sucks every night because all they see is the 0. But
a little bit different size. I don't know.
Yeah, I
maybe notice that part.
Yeah.
Hard to tell from the stands, though, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to tell when you're on the opposite end. But I'll say this. It was nice to see Trent Miner. I was surprised he came out, and I was like, oh, crap, that's Trent Miner. Look at that.
And I will stand very corrected because I said in our chat earlier in the week that Miner was not going to play.
Yeah, but you also have a freaking season-long bold prediction that we're going to have to get to later. So you kind of played both sides of the fence here, and I'm happy you did because I get to use our new ding today.
Oh, God.
It was just such a hold my beer moment. Like, it was like, oh, you just wait. Something's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I am surprised they did it by choice. Like, that was such a short leash, knowing that you're putting someone in that's never played in the NHL.
You have to think there was a conversation between periods with Anunin, like, hey, if you one more mistake, man, and you're out, and then he made it right away, and you know, because that was a brutal game.
It really was.
Or he was just mad at everybody. He was like, "You guys are all terrible tonight, so this is what you get."
Get me out.
I also like not to make excuses for Anunin or anybody else, but O'Connor was sick. It's enough to miss morning skate. Usually if one guy's sick, there's a couple guys sick. So could be, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing too with that game too is because, and maybe we could go on to this now, is that you had the return of 3 guys. You had Miles Wood come back. You had Drouin coming back. You had Nichushkin coming back for his first game of the year. And not only in that game, but even the Flyers game, they've all just kind of been meh.
Well, let us move on into our next segment, which will start with the Capitals again, and we will see those returning players. I'll start with this reaction to what you just said, Evan. Nuke is going to take some time to get his legs back. I noticed the 100%. First thing I noticed in the first game was that he was like going for it, and then he was like, shit, now I got to get back, and I don't have it. And so I think that'll get better over time. And when you look at Drouin, I think the same applies. That was just his 3rd game of the whole season. I mean, it feels like he maybe played more because he started the year, but no, he's not played a lot of hockey. So I think give those guys, I think game 10 or so of them being back, you'll really start to see them settling in back into their roles. But let's talk about, we talked about Ovechkin and the goalie, and the goals record. He's now since been listed as day-to-day. It seems like he got hurt against Utah last night or maybe a couple nights ago.
He got thrown on IR, I think.
Oh, really? So
he's week to week, I think.
So we won't see Ovechkin in Washington. What else needs to change for the Avalanche in order for them to end up on the winning side of this matchup? We'll go with you, Evan.
I don't know how these two have gotten hot starts, but you got to stop Dylan Strome and Connor McMichael, man. I don't know what those two did in the offseason, but my goodness, even just outside of Ovechkin, like those two have been lighting it up. And McMichael in general just had his way with the Avs last week. He had his way. The Avs couldn't do anything about it. That was a rough one for sure. So you got to contain those guys. You obviously don't have to worry about Ovi. And now you have, the 3 returning guys that I just mentioned a second ago, that at least now have a little bit more under them. Right now they've played a couple games. You can kind of rely on them a little bit more now, right? The Avs have actually surprisingly kind of had a solidified bottom 6 now for a little bit, and the other Evan Rowell with Denver Gazette had kind of pointed out that that they've been doing pretty good, just kind of holding their own on the bottom six. You got Parker Kelly, who chipped in a goal last week. Like, they're doing fine, I would say. Now you just need your top guys to do it, to come out. McCarr did that, of course, last night. Now you need McKinnon to keep going. You need Rantanen going, get Nichushkin going, get everyone going, and then you'll at least find a little bit more success. So skate it hard and get pucks to the net, and you should have some success. And even if you have a different goaltender in net now with Georgiev maybe back on Thursday night, that'll only help your case too.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully it just means you don't have to prepare for that one timer from the dot quite as much, and even in its diversion characteristics, because I noticed that in the first matchup that they were using the power play OV on the dot as a pretty solid diversion for the rest of the guys on the power play, which I think from night to night they probably just go, yep, it's your night, or nope, it's OV's night. But Brennan, you said he's on injured reserve. Is it retroactive?
I believe so, but he's out week to week.
Okay.
And it would be retroactive. And I mean, if he's out week to week, it's not going to matter for the Avs. They're going to be done with him after tomorrow, anyways. But if you watch the replay, it was like a shin to shin hit.
Ouch.
And if you're going speed, at any speed, that's going to hurt. So I'm suspecting it may be a broken leg.
Okay. Yikes. That would not be good. That would definitely make the record a little bit more maybe not kind of situation, when it was really looking like he might get it this year or not potentially really early next season.
And there was another record that he was going to break with it. He was going to do it in less games, and now that's going to be out the window more than likely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so plans are changing for the Capitals and for Alexander Ovechkin, but the Avs will continue their road trip, which has been nice because, the Avs are starting at a reasonable time these days. Evan really appreciates it.
I cannot say how happy I was to get a 7:00 start. It was spectacular. I wish it was 5 back in Denver, because that's
5's a little on the early side.
Yeah. What's that, 3 for us? Yeah, no way, Jose. I wouldn't even be out of work yet. Unacceptable. Can't happen. But Jackie, so we're continuing the trip with in Florida, pretty much, with the Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, both of which are pretty substantial Eastern foes. The Avs are already 1 for 4 on the road trip. What amount of success over these next few games would deem it a successful trip, in your opinion?
Well, usually you'd like to see an over 500 road trip, or at worst 500. But considering the Avs had this slow start, you really probably would like to see 3 out of 4, which is a lot to ask for. 750 is a pretty high winning percentage, but I think it's doable. I think they're going to beat Washington, just especially with their performance in the first game, they'll be motivated. And when you play a team so soon after, the opposite result tends to happen. So I'll be pretty surprised if they don't win that game. Speaking of Washington, I just want to say real quick, I like seeing them have success this year, because teams that have added youth and energy and getting rewarded for it, I like seeing that.
Yep.
But moving ahead, Florida's obviously going to be tough. They're playing really well this year. Tampa might be more of a toss-up, because they're kind of okay, like the Avs. Mm-hmm. What they need to do, I think, is they have to start doing better at even strength. So it's great when the power play works. It's great that they were able to use it to win the game yesterday. But if they're going to have sustained success, especially against a good team like Florida, they have to start doing better at even strength.
Well, that applies for both organizations, even for the Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both having problems scoring, but
well, the Eagles always have problems scoring. It's like a hallmark of the Eagles.
It's like
teams have a hard time scoring. But
they didn't really have much of a problem last year, but it seems to be a plague right now.
Well, one of the things we saw from Jared Bednar was that he started to kind of like mix and match lines now that we've seen the return of those three forwards in Wood, Nichushkin, and Drouin, to include kind of mixing up the top six against the Flyers compared to the Capitals, where he had Lehkonen, McKinnon, and Drouin on that top line, and Nichushkin, Mittelstadt, and Rantanen on the second line. It seemed to effectively stimulate Mittelstadt in a way that got him kind of out of his little slump.
He scored not at even strength.
Yeah, but I mean,
not
he
at
did
5-on-5.
He had 2 points, so I think it's safe to say that's better than where he was, games leading up to that. But Ezra, I'm curious, like, how did you feel about that mixing and matching? Do you like those pairs, or would you rather than just get back to Drouin, McKinnon, Rantanen, stick to it as long as they can so they kind of sink into it?
No, I like seeing what Rantanen and Mittelstadt are going to do together. I also think it helps. We've seen a more engaged version of Rantanen over the last couple of games, which I love to see. And I think giving him a little more responsibility as a leader on a second line instead of as, the wing to McKinnon on the first, I think is good. Down the road in the playoffs, it's good to have these options. So you got to work them out as soon as you can. And I think the beauty of this top six group with everybody healthy is they can all play with each other. Bednar can make whatever combinations he wants. Whoever's, been out on the penalty kill and needs a little breather can get a breather. Somebody else can jump in. It's great. It's a great thing to have these options. And that Rantanen and McKinnon work well together. So finding out what else works, I think is only a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am curious though, Jackie, we talked about like Drouin and McKinnon are sticking together. Do you still feel that way?
Oh yeah, I don't think it's going to last long. As soon as they hit another bump in the road, they're going to go back to Drouin, McKinnon, Rantanen as the top line. I don't particularly like Nichushkin with Rantanen. Nichushkin's sort of been on the struggle bus a little bit. I think his expected goals are like around 30%. So it hasn't, which is a very small sample size, which 2 games. But I just don't think that line has been as successful as you kind of would think. So I think Drouin's been all right. I haven't minded his game. I think he plays a quieter game. Like, it's never going to be that flashy, really. Other than a couple good passes here and there. But I think overall he's been fine. So I just think it's just going to go back to how Bednar likes it. I mean, I agree that options are good and you want to get looks with everybody. So I don't disagree with that in theory, but just the way the Avs are, it's just not going to last. It's just going to go back to how they find the most success. And I think they kind of know what the top line is going to be.
Mm-hmm. I agree with
blender.
that. Yeah, the Bednar blender. I like that. But I like, you're totally right, Jackie, because I think like rosters on paper and rosters in action are so different. Because on paper, Nichushkin, Mittelstadt, and Rantanen sounds nasty because you have your power forward, guy who likes to park in front of the net. You have your play driver, creator in Mittelstadt, and then you have your absolute snipe show in Rantanen. So on paper, those things should work together. I hope they kind of sport that a little bit longer, just to see if Drouin and McKinnon can create enough with that forechecking presence like Lehkonen and still score like a top line that would have Rantanen and Drouin on it. So we'll see how it goes. Is there anything else that you guys want to touch on Avs related that we haven't already? Because I think we're kind of flying through this thing, man.
I feel like I just want to touch on the lines real quick, Ezra. Sorry.
No, please.
Like I mean, the Bednar blender, I feel like it changes every game. We see something different every time. The projected lineups that we do in our writing previews and open threads, I feel like are usually outdated by the time the puck drops. But beyond that, I mean, you have to find what's working, right? And I mean, I've kind of touched on it already that, Drouin and Nichushkin and Wood, they're all still finding their feet. They're all trying to get it under themselves. So I think that's also why maybe that this sort of Bednar blendar is at its peak, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
Because you're trying out different things. You're trying to see what's working, what doesn't work. Before eventually, hopefully, maybe going back to old reliable. Where you just have Drouin, McKinnon and Rantanen top line, and then Lehkonen, Mittelstadt, Nichushkin on the second line, and then there's your dangerous top six, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Who knows how long it'll last, going forward for the rest of the games, but at least for the next, I would say, week or so. And of course, depending on other things that come up, knock on wood, that might change even more.
Yep. You heard it here first. That's true. I hope you're right, though, that they get their feet back under them. Actually, I think Nichushkin will probably do it sooner than Druin, just based on what I've seen. Nuke is not afraid to try to do what he usually does right now, but it's just like you can tell him kind of at the very end of the spurt, he's like, okay, get me off here.
Well, I mean, he's doing about his average shift length. I'm looking up on Natural Stat Trick is 43 seconds right now, which is about right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's as much as it's 2 seconds less than McKinnon.
Yeah. I'd be surprised, though, if like 10 isn't gliding, and that glide amount of seconds needs to go down to like 5. The 5 seconds it takes to get to the bench. But I hear you. He's at least out there participating, and it's nice to see 1-3 back on the sheet for the Avalanche. But let's get into NHL news, because although we're an Avalanche not only, but an Avalanche dedicated site, we do talk about NHL news. And while we have 430 live viewers right now, please head on over to milehighhockey.com and please give us a subscribe on YouTube and Twitch, and give us a follow on X at MHH_lab, all caps, and at Mile High Hockey. But we saw some news drop today that Jim Montgomery was fired from being the head coach of the Boston Bruins, and he kind of has some ties to Colorado. We've seen him kind of come and go. Initial reactions to that, do you guys have any?
I'll just say this morning before this all went down, because I know people were rumoring that like the end was coming because they just look so terrible. That roster is bad. I didn't realize it got so bad. Like,
yep.
After the top 3 guys that you would expect, their 4th leading scorer is a guy that was in the ECHL 2 years ago. Like, they are really scraping the bottom for the forwards they have on that team. So they definitely did scapegoat him, because like when your roster is taking that much of a step back, how much can you really expect?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I have an interesting stat right here to back that up, Jackie, which is regular season points earned by NHL teams since Jim Montgomery's first year in Boston, which was 2022. Bruins lead with 263 points, just ahead of the Hurricanes with 250, Rangers with 244, Stars 243, Leafs 237, and Avalanche 236. So he's literally been the winningest regular season goalie, coach since he arrived in Boston.
And they have 19 points, which isn't terrible either.
Yeah. And he's averaged 122 in each of the 2 seasons that he's been coach.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It's just definitely looking like the organization has to show that like they're not
doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That they don't accept it, that it's been a poor start. And
well, I have a buddy who lives in Boston, and when the news hit, I was like, how do you feel? Like, was this, because to me it was kind of surprising. I know that like fans felt like he needed to go, or at least something needed to happen, but I always felt like there would be a measured reaction from the front office. And I asked him, like, is this what you wanted? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. We were just waiting for Jim to be gone. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then I asked him kind of, well, why? And he said, well, the Swayman thing. And I was like, well, that's not him. That's management. And he's like, and plus, the locker room seems to be out on him, and because he's checked out. And I'm like, how on earth
can it's a process? It's a process. Yeah. I'm going to quote him from his days at DU. It is a process.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's going to happen here, because last season when we looked at the Bruins, we were like, okay, they're probably going to take a step back. They lose their captain. The roster itself is kind of spreading out. As you see success, you lose players. The Avs know that too. And I think they overperformed, having basically 2 starting goalies. And when that changed, you really started to see what, Jackie, you're pointing out, which is that the roster in front of the goalie really isn't one that we should be looking at a contender. I think honestly, sometimes, Mike Rupp has the same opinion of the Avalanche. I don't agree with him, but I will say that like this to me felt like the Bruins, like you said, Jackie, just doing something so that they can at least say like, well, we're trying, but at the end of the day, you have to try what works. And I think showing patience and resolve and trusting the process, as Brendan put it, is kind of important when it comes to being a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. Now, on the flip side of that coin, Evan, is we've seen teams get coaches in the middle of the season, Edmonton last year, and it just flips things on its head. Do you think that there's potential for that in Boston, or are you more in line with us and thinking that the roster is just not quite there?
Well, I guess touching on the coach, because it's former Avs coach Joe Sacco, who's
yes.
For at least on an interim term. He was a little bit before, I guess, my time, really becoming an Avs fan. But
be thankful,
right? So I've heard. I'm looking at the roster like right now, and yeah, I'm surprised to see some changes for sure. But I honestly feel like that should at least get you into the playoffs and at least get you, I would even argue, maybe a first round win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you have David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand, anything can happen. I mean,
Pavel Zacha's not a bad player either.
Yeah, Pavel Zacha's not bad. You have Elias Lindholm that's up there. Like, their top six is okay. Like, they could, but yeah, I mean, the bottom six is definitely not great. I'll give it that.
I mean, Charlie Coyle is 3C. You got Tyler Johnson on right wing. Tyler Johnson's got, I think, 1 or 2 Stanley Cups with Tampa.
Mm-hmm. He was on PTO.
Yeah, he was signed. He was signed late. Yeah, I think he was signed last week or the week before.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he's been one of my favorites ever since like 2014.
And they don't really have youth. That's another hallmark of a team in decline.
Fair. Yeah.
They sent their one decent one. I don't know how to say his name. It starts with a P. They sent the one young guy they had, they sent away. So that
I think here's the I'll say this. Is that I think Boston, they got to figure it out eventually. Like, I feel like they're going to be hanging around the 500 mark and will probably be buyers at the deadline, I would imagine. And they'll make a push for it because Boston is Boston, right?
Yeah.
I will say on the flip side, though, Jim Montgomery's a damn good hockey coach. Like, he's a very good coach.
Yes,
and he has connections with Denver. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up either a head coach somewhere else or maybe an assistant. I'd love to see if maybe the Avs could try and bring him in on like an assistant role, but I doubt that happens. But he's going to land somewhere. He's a good hockey coach. Like, he's not going to stay out. He's not going to stay out of a job for forever. That is for sure.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm a little less optimistic just because that division's tough. Like, if any one of those teams take a step forward, like Buffalo, Ottawa, pushes them out. But you also have Tampa. If they're like right now, would you bet on Tampa being better or Boston being better?
Tampa.
So
$1 million Tampa.
So then now we're saying the ceiling is a wild card. I think that's some pretty shaky ground to begin with there. But they have a lot of pride. They have a lot of experience, good veterans. So I don't think they're going to get into like Columbus territory or something like that. But I'd expect more of a dead cat bounce than like a resurgence from a new coach. And I know that Sacco's been definitely the butt of a lot of Avs jokes for the last decade plus, but I'll say it's been long enough. Hopefully he's learned a few things. He probably does deserve another shot at leading a team. So,
and he's been in Boston this entire time since he left, like pretty much the entire time since he left Colorado. So he definitely knows
he in Pittsburgh for a while.
I don't know, but he's been there for a long time.
I do feel like he's been the assistant there for ages.
Yeah, through like 3 coaching regimes, if I remember correctly.
So it is time, to see what he can do, and he deserves a shot.
Unfortunately for him, though, I think Boston's cooked. I think they're completely done. Their best player is Pastrnak, who's wonderful, and their next best player is Marchand, who's 40. They're done. They're done. I'll say it. They'll probably be back next year with some new pieces and a fresh Jeremy Swayman. But this year, yes, they have 19 points, but they've played 20 games. They're in 4th place, and all the teams behind them have played 2 or 3 less games.
Oh, and they have a negative 20 goal differential.
And a negative 20 goal differential. Yeah, they're bad. It's over. See ya.
Yeah. Yeesh. I didn't even know about the minus 20 goal differential. That is brutal.
Sacco spent a year in Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah, he went from the Avs to Buffalo, and then he's been in Boston since. But
there you have it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, at least we have interesting NHL news to talk about, and it has its Colorado Avalanche ties, so that's always cool.
But also Montgomery, here's the crazy part. He was 120, 41, and 23 overall. That's a damn good record.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but I mean, that is a dang good record.
You can curse on here. I already did.
No, I prefer not to, but every other word would be something. But that's a darn good record. It's just, like Jackie was saying, he's just doesn't really have that great of a roster to back it up with.
Well, they have to make the playoffs because someone has to eliminate the Maple Leafs in the first round. So, however that happens, that's
going to be Montreal.
That's fine too, actually. Either Boston or Montreal beat.
Wow. Montreal makes the playoffs.
I was gonna say,
there's my new season long one.
All right, well, that's a good segue, Brennan. Well, let's get into our bold predictions and let's talk about what went down last week and who's getting what as it pertains to their bold predictions. And folks, if you have a bold predictions, give it to us now in the comments live, and we will give you a shout out, and we will circle back next week and hand you your buzzer or your ding. Ezra, let's start with yours. Last week you said Nichushkin would score a power play goal on Friday. Unfortunately, he's still not on the board in his return. Jackie, you had Anunin would get his next start against the Flyers, and you know what? He did.
It's like a half ding because he.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We're not gonna count.
You didn't say quality start.
He did start
quality start.
the Washington game. However, Minor actually played more minutes than Anunin.
That's
but
crazy.
I know it's not a full ding. It's not exactly what I said.
But did we
Who knows what would have happened had Georgiev not been put on IR?
Exactly. But you didn't know on Tuesday, so I mean that's even bolder. Like you basically boldly predicted that the Avs would have to start Anunin, and you didn't even know it.
I'll call it a half. It's not a full. It's not exactly what I said.
Okay, fair. And then you also said EJ would play his 1000th game against the Avs.
Yeah, not quite. That was also not quite.
Yeah. Which is like,
close,
what are we doing here?
Quite.
I guess if you need the guy, you got to play him anyway in the game between the Avs and the one we were talking about. And then you said that a goalie trade would happen before the Nichushkin trade.
Yeah, we already said that one.
We buzzed that one already? Week. Okay, so that's it for Jackie. Adrian had a bold hope that the Avalanche would go undefeated last week. The one game he attended, they lost pretty brutally, gave up 2 goals in like the first 2 minutes before I just barely got in my chair. Didn't even get a beer yet. It was brutal. Evan, you had McKinnon to have 7 points in 3 games. Unfortunately,
not only that, I initially said he'd get 5. He didn't even get 5.
Yeah,
wow,
he didn't even get 5.
Yeah.
I'm not happy.
I think I talked you into the bump up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least it wasn't our fault.
All of you did.
It wasn't our fault.
Peer pressure.
If he didn't get 5, then that definitely wasn't.
He got 4. He got 4. He was pointless against the Caps, and then got 2 last night and 2 the other night.
I keep telling you guys, they listen to our show and they just like to mess with us. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, right.
That's why McKinnon passed that empty netter to Mikko that he whiffed on. But no, I'm just kidding. Brennan, you said that Nuke would have 2 points, and as we touched on earlier, he is still scoreless.
And minus 3 against Washington.
Yeah, he was. And you said Ovi would score, and that did not happen either. But you did say something that we set it up this season that we wanted to have season-long bold predictions. And if you got one correct, we were going to have an extra special ding for you. And so, sir, you correctly predicted that the Avalanche would debut one Trent Miner between the pipes. And so, sir,
It's over! They did it! They did it! The job is done!
I'll have to
All right.
thank him next week.
yes, you'll have to give him a shout out. Say, hey, by the way,
My boy's wicked smart.
my boy's wicked smart, and he predicted, Trent, that you would play. So maybe he just owes you like a steak dinner or something. Because again, you put it in the universe, man. It was you.
I feel like that's some media violation with the Eagles, but
Yeah, probably.
Well, as long as there's no coin, I think you're okay. And no one's getting paid for these dings. It's just about the love of the game here and the love of the ding. That's what we're doing around here. So with that being said, we've gotten our first Wicked Smart season-long bold prediction. Wicked Smart on a day we talk about Boston, by the way. But let's roll that track and let's give our new ones this week.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk!
All right, Brennan, since you're the man of the hour, it's your birthday, you got a season-long ding. I mean, let's celebrate 40 in style. What's your bold prediction today?
You didn't give me enough time to even think. My brain.
I got one. I can.
Okay, we'll circle back to the
second.
birthday boy. Okay, Jackie.
All right. So I'm going with more of the bold hope direction this week. I'm going to say that Makar is due and he gets a real hat trick.
Gets a real hat trick. I love it. Not 3 goals and one of them gets called back. A real hat trick.
I think
Fair
he's
enough.
due. Am I correct? He doesn't have one in his career yet. A hat
No,
trick.
he got one last year.
One.
Did he?
I was gonna say he got one last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
One.
Because it helped me
who it
beat
was.
someone last week. That week.
In fantasy.
Yeah. Like it
But
took
he's
me
due.
over in goals, and I was like, yes.
As long as he doesn't break that stick, which is funny because you mentioned earlier about how his stick blew up and like the blade fell off. Then that was before he scored at all. So it was almost like divine.
I was gonna say, because that's how I
Intervention.
felt when the second one went in, or like the second one, which was really the third one, but the second one that counted went in, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a Lehkonen goal," and it turns out it bounced off one of the Flyers and in. I was like, hockey gods were like, "Nah, homie, that's a goal." And so, because I know by the letter of the rule that was goalie interference, but by common knowledge and just basic common sense, that goalie wasn't going to stop that shot pretty much either way. no
I've
matter-
definitely seen worse get let
definitely.
go. So that one was a little
Okay, so I got you
confusing to
down.
me, but as long as that stick doesn't break, I think that stick needs a hat trick.
Fair enough. Yeah, he just needed a different one, huh, Jackie? It was like that.
It was like divine intervention. It was like, this stick's done. He's not going to score with this one.
Yeah. Okay, Brandon, did you have enough time? You got yours.
I predict a win finally in Sunrise.
Finally,
Because it seems like they always struggle in Sunrise.
It
for
has
some
been a while
reason.
since they've won down there. I know they lost badly last year. I don't know how long it's been, but it's definitely been a little while.
Let's look it up. Avs head-to-head against Florida. This is just hard-hitting Avalanche broadcasting right now, where I read out loud what I'm putting into the Google search bar. Just look at us go.
8-0 reads.
This segment is called 8-0 reads. I don't know. We can't figure it out. StatMuse is useless right now. But I like that. I hope they do get a victory in Florida against the defending Stanley Cup champions. And I got you down. Evan, you got one for me?
I do, but knowing my luck, it's probably not going to be green. It's not going to be a buzz because, man, I still need to go back and go look. I don't know how long it's been. I need a buzz badly. this guy's due for one. He's been better recently, but he still needs a goal, and that's what I think is going to happen this week. I think Logan O'Connor finally breaks through and finally scores, because he's had his moments. It just hasn't quite been there yet.
He had one last night where it looked like that thing was going in, and it didn't. I totally agree with you. I like that one. I think AJ from DNVR put it well when he said, whoever monstered Logan O'Connor, if you could give him the basketball back and let him have his abilities. Obviously, I think that has a lot to do with the injury that he's coming back from, because the thing that seems to be missing is that pop and explosiveness in his skating. Because usually we're like, is that Nathan McKinnon? And they're like, oh, no, it's Logan O'Connor. And it's not necessarily because they're the same speed, but they move similarly and they're both pretty explosive. Good point. I haven't really seen that from Logan in kind of the season so far. But again, I think over time, we'll see him kind of get back to what makes LOC.
He's also like a career 20-point guy, so I don't know how much capacity is there. I do agree he has looked a little slower. Mm-hmm. I really tried to watch him live when I was at the game. I think it was the Nashville game. So I agree. There's a little less spark there, even though he also was way, way, way too high in the lineup. As well. Fair. But as far as, like the skill and the hands and the getting a puck in the net, I don't know. I think there's a little limited capacity there.
I think we got in a little over our head last year before he got injured, and we were like, he's going to come back and be a freaking second liner. Let's roll, baby. And I don't know how realistic that is at the end of the day. But Ezra, what do you got for me?
I'm going to go wild. Ananen shutout against Washington. Let's do it.
I mean, I felt like he was going to get one the other night before my son shit his pants.
I did too.
He doesn't have a shutout, does he? In his career, NHL shutout.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Against Chicago.
Yeah, he had a couple last year. Mm-hmm.
Couple? Okay. Well, it's time for another.
It's time.
But it was Chicago, so you can't say much.
Yeah. Well, honestly, man, like Ananen, he's one of those dudes. It's similar to kind of Georgiev. You kind of get a feel early on whether or not he has it. Like against the Flyers, it felt like pretty early on he had it.
Yeah. From the beginning of the game if he's going to have a good 2 periods, and then the third period is just like probably not.
Crapshoot. Yeah.
Well, knowing that too, he's definitely going to want to rebound anyway after that third period, I'd imagine.
That's what I'm saying.
Love it. I love it.
And do we see a Mandalise debut?
I hope not.
Yeah,
it would be a start, but does something bad happen? To get the game?
Because it's 3 good teams on the road, and
all right, I got my bold prediction, and it's bold. My bold prediction is that Valeri Nichushkin will contribute to 3 5-on-5 goals this week.
5-on-5.
My fantasy team would love that.
That would be nice.
I think you said the exact same thing last week, Brennan.
Yep.
Mandalise will be in California by the weekend.
Yeah. Well, I say the 5-on-5 thing for Nichushkin because
they need more 5-on-5.
And apparently the Avs just want to shoot from the point, and we just don't have the guy who can deflect the puck in or be there for the rebound. And that is Nichushkin's bread and butter. And that's probably how he's going to score his first goal back. It's going to be a point shot right off a goalie's chest, straight to the ice, and he's going to put it right between their legs on a rebound. And
I hope it happens in Florida.
Well, and it's Landy's bread and butter, too. Because how many goals has he stolen in his career by putting just the tip?
Yeah. Whoa, hang on. Yeah, exactly.
I think you're onto something here, because I think I bet we're going to see Nichushkin on the top line with Drouin and McKinnon. I bet that happens.
And if Sam Girard is shooting from the point, it probably won't get all the way to the net, and in which case,
unfortunately,
you'll get to shoot from wherever it does land if it doesn't land in possession of the other team. But I'm happy that Girard got on the board, because every time he scores, it's like, okay, now people will shut up. But then I'm also not glad, because every time he scores, I'm like, nope, people are not going to shut up. He
deserved that moment, though. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, me too.
We should also, hopefully it was clipped, but somehow will be lost to the internet. He totally laid out at least 2 guys in the corner last night.
2 dudes that were
was
much
fun
bigger. Yeah.
He is also Gerard's going to move up. He probably already has, but he's going to pass JML on shots blocked. And I tweeted that out, I think, a couple games ago, and JML put a reaction out like the Jim Carrey from Liar Liar. Oh, come on.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know exactly how many games, but it's coming up real quick that Gerard's going to have 500.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
So that should happen pretty soon.
And he's a guy who started so young. Like, he's going to play 1,000 games, too. Probably.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Easy.
Knock on wood,
No
but
problem.
yeah. That would be amazing.
Which is crazy because the Avs got him in his first season as a pro, which is
nuts. He's 6 games away from
6 games. 6 games away, which puts that at, who do we got 6 games away from now?
That might be my Sabres game in a couple weeks. It just might be.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oilers.
The night before.
Saturday night against the Oilers. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. Those are our bold predictions this week. Ezra, you have an Anonin shutout against the Flyers. Jackie, you have
Capitals.
Capitals, sorry. Why did I do that?
Wow.
We're not going to play for the Flyers this week, so that wouldn't work at
Again.
Excuse me. Jackie, you had a Makar hat trick. I had Nichushkin will contribute 3 5-on-5, 2 3 5-on-5 goals. Evan, you have a Logan O'Connor goal. And Brennan, you have a win finally in Sunrise, Florida against the Panthers. So, folks, if you have your own bold prediction, send it to us now in the live comments, or send it to us on X or Blue Sky at Mile High Hockey. You can catch us there. Brandon, what you got for me?
Gerard is, as of the beginning of the Philly game, was 1 block shot shy of JML.
Okay, so it's coming.
And I'm sure he got it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it probably happened.
Yeah, now he'll be chasing Brett Clark.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, Brett Clark with the E. That's right. Exactly. Well, Avalanche fans, thank you so much for tuning in. There's like 607 of you listening to us, watching us live. So we really appreciate you. Please head on over to milehighhockey.com. Give us a follow on X at @MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. And of course, follow Ezra, Eben, Brennan, and Jackie as well. They all have updates. And thank you for joining us. As usual, go Avalanche, and hopefully, we see a 5-for-5 ding for this panel of contributors, as they are all kind of bold hopes. But lastly but not least, Avs fans, go Avs and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.